بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. هذا آخر chapter إن شاء الله في جزئية ما بعد الميدترم which is chapter 11 discussing accounting periods and methods. في هذا الشابتر راح نناقش بعض الأمور اللي تتعلق بالفترة المحاسبية. We will explain the adapting and changing accounting period. We will explain the differences between cash والأكرل والhybrid accounting methods. راح نناقش نتكلم عن بعض determination of cost that must be included in inventory or special accounting methods and etc. Even including related to interest, inshallah. So let's start with the first discussion here, which is accounting periods. Before we get into the accounting periods, accounting method is a system of rules and procedures that used to determine the year in which income and expense are reported for tax purpose. The accounting methods used to compute taxable income generally must be the same as those used in keeping the taxpayer's books and records and determine when income and expense are reported, not necessarily affect the amount of income reported over the life of the business. They do affect the tax burden in two ways. First, selecting the appropriate accounting method that can accelerate deductions or defer income recognition in order to postpone tax payments. And second, because of the progressive tax rate structure, taxpayer can save tax by spreading income over several accounting periods rather than having income into one period. This is a really interesting introduction to this chapter, inshallah. So, accounting periods. فيما نستخدم الفترة المحاسبية. What is the use of the annual accounting periods? What do we use it for? So, a period that the basis of which taxpayer keep its books and records and computes income and expenses on the period. This is the accounting, which is ordinarily 12 months, either the calendar year or the fiscal year. The fiscal year هي 12 شهر period that ends on the last day of the month other than December. هذا الفيسكال year. السنة اللي أنت تختارها. الكالندر year هي السنة الميلادية اللي تبدأ ب1 يناير وتنتهي في 31 ديسمبر. This is the difference between these two. Fiscal year 12 periods land on the last day of any other month other than December. So تستخدم الفترة المحاسبية لقياس الدخل الخاضع للضريبة. We can describe the two main options for taxable year. Taxable year may be calendar year, ممكن يكون fiscal year under certain restrictions. Describe utilize for fiscal year for partnership, S corporate, and personal service corporations. Partnership, S corporation, and personal service corporation have special restrictions on utilization of a fiscal year. Fiscal year اللي هي 12 months period that ends on the last day of any month other than December. Fiscal year طبعا في describe the utilize of fiscal year شرحها كثير من الشركات والبارتنرشيب وغيرهم من شركات الخدمات الشخصية والشركات الاس كوربريت والشركات لها قيود خاصة في استخدام السنة المالية other than السنة So when can one lose the ability to elect the fiscal year? It's improper election to use a fiscal year automatically places the taxpayer on the calendar year. A partnership generally must use the same tax year as the partners who own the majority, greater than 50% of partnership income and capital. If a majority of partners do not have a same year, the partnership must use the tax year of its principal partners. Those with more than 5% interest in the partnership. A similar rule برضو acquired to the S corporate and personal service corporation to adopt a calendar year unless the corporation has a business purpose for electing a fiscal year. A taxpayer willing to make required payments or distribution may choose the fiscal year. There is other requirements that we are going to go over because, related to this matter. Under certain condition, partnership and corporate and personal service, they may elect taxable year result in the deferred of 3 months or less. في تحت بعض الظروف في بعض الشركات ممكن انها مثلا ينتخبون او يختارون السنه الخاضعه للضريبه. ممكن يكون ينتج عن هذا امر تاجيل او تاخر عدد من الاشهر 3 اشهر او اقل او اكثر. In some instances, the taxpayers can change accounting period without the IRS approval, but generally IRS approval is required. في بعض الحالات يجب أنه تحصل الشركة على موافقة الهيئة المسؤولة عن مثلا زي هيئة الضرائب أو مصلحة الضرائب في المملكة في الحكومة الأمريكية. لابد أنها تحصل الشركة على موافقة منها في حالات مثلا تغيير السنة أو من قبل هذه الشركة دافعة الضرائب. فالغرض في هذا الأمر تجاري وليس ضريبي، أن يكون الغرض من التغيير تجاري من قضية تغيير الفترة المحاسبية. Once adopted, an accounting period cannot normally be changed without the IRS approval. So we must establish substantial business purpose to change the accounting period. Changing the accounting period, the IRS approval not necessary. When it's not necessary. If a few instances IRS approval is not required to change to another accounting period, a newly married person may change tax years to conform, okay, to that of his or her spouse, so that the joint return may be filed. So the election must be made in either the first or the second year after the marriage date. هذا ما يحتاج. It'll change to the 52 or 53 week year and ends within reference to the same calendar month in which the former tax year ended. فهذه list of situations في القائمة هذه بالحالات اللي ممكن تكون فيها موافقة وما يحتاج انه ينتظر الشخص انه يحصل على ابروفل. فالمتوقع ان يكون موافقه عليها المصلحه او الهيئه الضريبيه تغيير الفتره المحاسبيه لما يكون في توافق بين الزوجين. أو المتزوجين حديثا. التغيير إلى العام من 52 إلى 53 أسبوع ينتهي بنفس التقويم. month as per prior tax year. التوافق بين سنة التقرير المالي والسنة الضريبية. conformity between financial reporting year and tax reporting. في بعض الشركات اللي ما تغيرت المحاسبة فيها لفترات طويلة خلال 10 سنوات. certain corporation which have not changed accounting for periods within 10 years. فيكون في توافق بين سنة التقرير المالي والسنة الضريبية الخاصة لها. إذا حدث في عدم توافق وهي لم تتغير لفترة طويلة فيمكن أن تتغير بهذا الشكل. Okay. Okay, return on periods of less than 12 months. Most income tax return cover an accounting period of 12 months on 2 occasions. However, taxpayers' accounting period may be less than 12 months when the taxpayer's first or final return is filed and when the taxpayers change accounting period. For taxpayers filing an initial tax return and execute filing a taxpayer's final return, or corporations filing their last return, are not required to analyze the year's income, nor are personal exemptions or tax credits prorated. So these returns are prepared and going to be filed. هذا بالنسبة the taxes are paid as through they are returned for 12 months period ending on the last day of the short period. ففي بعض في هذه النقطة the taxpayer who change from one accounting period to another must analyze their income for the resulting short period. So this prevents income earned during the resulting short period from being taxed at a lower rate. Okay, determine modified taxable income. Individuals must compute their taxable income في قانون 12 months على عدد الأشهر في short period أو عدد الأشهر في short period على 12 month if it's computing the tax on the resulting taxable income using the appropriate tax rate schedule. And then we will multiply the resulting tax by the following function. Okay, the overall accounting method. A taxpayer's method of accounting determines the year in which income is reported and expenses are deducted. Taxable income must be computed using the method of accounting regularly used by the taxpayers in keeping his or her books if that method clearly reflects income. Permissible overall accounting methods it's going to be cash receipt and disbursement اللي هو cash basis. Accrual method will combination of first two methods, often that's called the hybrid method. Let's go into discussing these methods. So first of all اللي هو cash the receipt and disbursement. Okay, cash basis taxpayers report income for tax year in which payments are actually or constructively received. Expenses are generally deducted in the year paid. Prepaid expenses which have a life that extends substantially beyond the tax year are required to be capitalized and amortized. Most individuals and many service businesses utilize the cash receipts and disbursement. So الجزئية هذه طريقة أو شرح لطريقة الأساس النقدي في قضية يتم تقديم طبعا هي المقبوضات تقابل المدفوعات أو يتم الاعتراف فيها في حالة دفع في حالة القبض الفعلي. تقرير الداخلي الضرائب عن الدخل السنوي يتم إعطاء تقارير في المدفوعات اللي يتم تلقيها فعليا وتستقطع المصروفات بشكل عام في السنة اللي سددت فيها. المصروفات مسبقة الدفع اللي لها عمر ممتد هذه لها تصرف آخر يجب رسمه وإطفاء اللي هي اللي قلناها قضية سوري capitalization and amortization اللي هو رسمه وإطفاء ما بعد السنة الضريبية. فمعظم الأفراد والكثير من الشركات الخدمية تقدمها تقوم بهذه الطريقة، تستخدم الطريقة الإيصالات والمدفوعات النقدية يتم إثباتها بشكل واضح. بالنسبة للطريقة الأخرى اللي هي this is the cash. So most individuals and service businesses use actually the cash receipt and disbursement method of accounting. Taxpayers cannot use the cash method in business for sales and cost of goods sold. ما راح تكون inventories are an income producing factor. الطريقة الثانية الأكرول ميثود. الأكرول ميثود as you know لطريقة الاستحقاق there are two tests that used to determine when an item of income must be reported or an expense deducted. So all events test والeconomic performance test. All events test and economic business test. all events test الأكرول method taxpayers reports an item of income when all events have accrued that fix the taxpayer's right to receive the time, also to receive the item of income and the amount that can be determined with a reasonable accuracy. Similarly, if any expenses is deductible when all events have accrued that establish the fact that the liability and the amount of the expenses can be determined with a reasonable accuracy for deductions, so that the all event test is not satisfied until economic performance has taken place. What does economic performance means? Economic performance of service or property to be provided to a taxpayers يحدث when the property or services are actually provided by the other party. Requirement that طبعا if taxpayers obligated to provide property or service economic performance accrues in the year of the taxpayer provide the property or service. في بعض requirement and conditions must be met مثل the all events test without regarding the economic performance is satisfied. The economic performance occurs within the reasonable period, but is in no event more than 8.5 months after the close of the tax year. The items is recurring the natural or the nature actually. The taxpayers is not a tax shelter. كل هذه أمثلة على بعض requirements. Hybrid method may use the combination of accounting method. يستخدم الكاش ويستخدم accrual as long as the income is clearly reflected. So taxpayers with inventories are required to use the accrual method to report sales and purchases if their average gross receipt for the 3 preceding years exceeding actually 1 million, 10 million if the taxpayer's principal business is not the sale of inventory. Taxpayers who use the cash method of accounting and determining gross income from a trader business must use the cash method for determining expenses for the same trader business. Similarly, taxpayers who using the accrual method of accounting for expenses must use the accrual method in computing the gross income from the trader business. So the basic rules related to accounting methods the all event test, the economic performance are summarized في في الكتاب بشكل مختصر جدا. Inventories. In general, manufacturing and merchandising companies are required to use the accrual method of accounting for purchase and sales of merchandise. Inventory method used by a taxpayer must conform to the best accounting practice in the trade or business, and it must clearly reflect income. Although the company's practice conformed with generally accepted accounting principle, it did not, according to the Supreme Court. دافع الضريبة who value inventory at cost may write down goods that are not sellable at their normal price. سواء كانت damage, absolute, أو shop worn of goods only after the selling prices has been reduced. The items may be valued at a bona fide selling price that is reduced by the direct cost of disposal. So the option to write down these type of merchandise is available even if the taxpayers use the LIFO. All right. So inventories may have a determination. Inventories may actually be valued at either cost or at the lower of cost or market value. Taxpayers who using LIFO inventory valuation method discussed later may not use the lower of cost or market method. So in this case of merchandise purchase, the cost is the invoice price less trade discount plus freight and other actually handling charges. هذا بالنسبة للجزئية هذه. Right. So special accounting methods مثل long term contract, installment sales method, the deferred payment, they're actually other accounting methods that we may use. So, for example, in a long-term contract, include buildings, installment, construction, or manufacturing contract. They are not completed in the same tax year in which they began. So the manufacturing contract is long term only if the contract involves the manufacture of either a unique item not normally carried in finished goods inventory or items that normally required more than 12 calendar months to complete. Right. This is a long term contract. So installment sales. In general, the gain or losses from the sale of property is reported in the year of the property sold. So if the sales proceeds are collected in years after the sale, the taxpayers may find it difficult to pay the tax on the entire amount of the gain in the year of sale. So to reduce the burden, the tax law permits taxpayers to spread the gain from installment sales over the collection period. So the installment method is applicable only to gain and is used to report income from an installment transaction unless the taxpayers elect not to use the installment method. So an installment sale is any disposition of property where at least one payment is received after the close of the taxable year in which the disposition accrues. So the installment method is not applicable to sales if of inventory or marketable security. طبعا الكومبنسيشن مثل ما انتم competitions under section 453 عندك 5 step starting with the computing the gross profit from the sale. Take a look at it in the book. There is more explanation going over selling price minus adjusted basis, selling expenses, the depreciation recaptures to the gross income or gross profit, etc. A change in accounting method. In general, a new taxpayers elect an accounting method by simply applying the selected method when computing income for the initial tax return. So if a particular item does not cure in the first year, the accounting method is elected the first year in which the items occur. A change in accounting method usually result in duplication of omissions of items of income or expenses. The net amount of challenge must be taken into account. So a positive adjustment is added to income, whereas a negative adjustment is subtracted from income. So this adjustment can, of course, be made in the year of the change. If the amount is small, recognizing the full amount of the net adjustment in the year of the change is both simple and equitable. Obtaining this is the tax planning consideration. Accounting period, the new corporation often actually بشكل روتيني adopt a calendar year. Consideration should be given, however, to adopting a tax year for the initial reporting periods that ends before the amount of taxable income exceeds the amount that is taxed at the lowest tax rate when tax income or taxable income is 50%, 50,000 or less. This is less critical for a corporation. They're actually suffering losses because of the net operating loss that may be actually carried forward for the 2020 next years period. Right. Thank you so much. This is the end of chapter 11. Good luck in your exams, inshallah.